Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the United States Congress. The delisting sets the stage for a bold new phase in U.S.-Iran relations. And the removal of the People's Mujahideen organization from the foreign terrorist organization list is the clearest indication to date that the strategy of capitulation and unending diplomatic engagement is over. With absolute confidence, I can tell you that the future is bright, the choice is clear, and regime change from within is on the horizon. And like you, I look forward to a day in the not-too-distant future when we can celebrate an end to clerical rule. And so it's not at all surprising that ordinary Iranians are asking, isn't there a better way? Well, there is a better way. And it's represented in the platform championed by the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran and articulated in the 10-point plan set forth by Mrs. Rajavi, the President-elect of the National Council of Resistance. Human rights, gender equality, separation of church and state, freedom of speech, positive relations with the world, and a non-nuclear Iran. That negotiations will not make the world safer. And pretending that the regime in Iran is not made up of thugs and killers is not moral, it isn't just, and it's not an option. The world must now reject the false hope of bilateral talks and not fall victim to unending negotiations that only project weakness and strengthen the hand of Iran's brutal leaders.
If there is one thing that I hope that we've learned from recent history, is that when the people of Iran, when the dissidents of that country rise up as they have done, as they did in 2009, that we in Congress encourage this administration never to be silent again, never to be silent again, and to voice at least moral support.
Well, we all know we have had a major victory, and I think it is the victory that will lead us on to ultimate victory. And therefore, the delisting is a victory, I contend, for all Americans. It's a victory for the use of the U.S. judicial process, and it is a victory for judges who were able to say the time has come that we have to dust off this ancient writ of mandamus, and we have to do something that we are so reluctant to do. It's a victory for civil liberties. Now, beyond that, it's of course a victory for a more just world order.
But the battle finally has been won, but the war for liberty is not over. There's much more work to be done. There are more battles to be fought. And we know who the enemy is. Let there be no mistake about it. The transgressor, the person that is causing all of this mischief for you, for the MEK, and for the Iranian people, is that little fellow from the desert, Ahmadinejad. The best hope for the Iranian people, for the Middle East, for the world, and for the United States is a regime change in Iran by the Iranian people. I want to thank you for your hard work and perseverance. It has made a difference.
What about the unrest? It's brewing in Iran. So what? That unrest without the Mujahideen is like a human being without a head. There is no leadership to the unrest. You cannot have the same kind of revolution that occurred in 1979, almost occurred in 1999, in 2009. Why? Because the street had no leadership in 99 and 2009. So without the Mujahideen, you don't have a leadership. And you can't call for democracy with the street. The street can't speak. The street needs organization. The third point has to do with Camp Liberty. And so one of the things that has to be done is to publicize the fact that Camp Liberty has become this prison, and the individuals there have to be freed from their imprisonment. So let me summarize, and then I'm going to go to another aspect of my presentation. Unrest without the MEK leadership is like a human being without a head. I mentioned that the Green Movement has no leadership. Who in particular, Musavi and Karoubi, are regime people. They accept clerical rule, they accept Velayat Fahi, and they just simply want to have some of the power. Secondly, if the regime pays more attention to the MEK, that means that the MEK is important. What impact the delisting should have on U.S. policy toward Iran? The answer is what? Reset American policy toward regime change from within. Not just pay attention to what happens in Geneva and Istanbul with respect to the negotiations, not just watching the centrifuges spin around and around, going up to 20%, from which they could leap up to 80% and have nuclear breakout.
Well, congratulations. You know, I almost thought I'd never see the day when the MEK would be removed from the list of terrorist organizations. It took a lot of faith. It took all of us working together. But finally, it has been done.
And you are welcome here, and your thrust is supported. I, of course, support you, and you have great support in the United States Congress because you're on the right side. And I just think, and I understand there's an election coming up this summer, and I think the day can't come quick enough to show a certain guy over there the door, but I think we need some little greater reform than just a new president of Iran.
In addition to finally having the delisting of the MEK, I know we're also concerned about the 10-point plan that Miriam had brought forward. The importance of having that, and I want to make sure everyone's aware, is this camp, that gives us the ability to have the Geneva protections. And that's so important when it comes to the ability to sell property, when it comes to the ability of protections of families. We must absolutely have that designation done.
That the court here and Alan Gerson must be applauded for the incredible job he did in this court case. The whole thing of bringing a writ of a mandamus against the State Department has only happened twice in our history. And so you're part of real legal history these days.